Welcome to Time to Press Pause, real life stories from the C-suite. I'm your host, Ellen Williams, CEO of The Salient Strategist, and today my guest is Johanne Brierre, CEO of Brooklyn Commons and the New York Beauty Suites. Today we discuss how Johanne was unfulfilled by the hustle and bustle of New York City hospitality industry, and she knew that there was more that she could offer. Interested in being an entrepreneur, she searched for resources and realized that she had an opportunity to not only learn more about being an entrepreneur, but create a space that would help others do the same. Johanne is the driving force behind Brooklyn Commons and New York Beauty Suites, where she created co-working spaces that are dynamic ecosystems empowering over 350 small businesses and beauty-preneurs to flourish. Her mission is to empower entrepreneurs by fostering inclusive, supportive environments that promote success and community engagement. Through each endeavor, Johanne aims to redefine the future of work, creating spaces where creativity and entrepreneurship can truly prosper. Welcome, Johanne. It's so great to have you here today on this episode of Time to Press Pause.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. What a perfect timing for this.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm glad you're excited because I certainly am as well. We connected briefly previously, and I haven't heard your press pause story, so I'm eager to hear it. Please do share.
Sure. I mean, you haven't heard because I haven't really shared my first story. So when I saw your email, I said, what a perfect timing. Because right now, as an entrepreneur and founder and CEO, it has been very difficult to kind of build a company, especially in Central Brooklyn, to be specific. It has been very difficult. So my story pretty much started around 8 years ago. I live in Flatbush area. I used to work in hospitality in Manhattan in the hotel industry. And from there, I was like, I'm tired of going to the city. Everything it's happening in the city. I want to actually go back home and build a hub where entrepreneur like me could find resources and connect with other entrepreneurs. So for me, from there, I was actually coming from the train station, and then I saw a sign that said Brooklyn Common at that time. And I was like, I walked in there and I was like, well, what is this place? And then the landlord was like, well, it's an office space and you're going to open it up. That time we only had like maybe 6 offices. The whole building is about 300 square footage, mind you. And then from there, I was like, well, how come none of us know about it? And then I walked in there and he was like, well, would you like to come build with me? And I was like, what? So from there, I was like, well, you're missing this. In order for us to be successful, can it be a win-win? So for me at that time, WeWork was very popular. Everybody knew about WeWork. But I was like, let's bring a co-working space that have a community-driven angle to it. Let's build something where also you can be beneficial to it and also the community and the people that work there. And then pretty much like that's how the whole story of how I started as a CEO in Brooklyn Common. Right now, we started from probably like 6 offices at that time. We expanded to an event space, we expanded to meeting room space, and now we have the whole building is over 300 square footage. So we have 2 locations. That's how the whole story started with my start at Brooklyn Common.
Well, I appreciate the community that you've spent the last 8 years building. So tell me a little more about the press pause. You had said you were tired of going into the city. What was it that really made you, I need to stop and figure out what to do next? Where was that pause? How long was the pause for?
I would say the pause was a year. At that time, I left my job and I was like, well, how am I going to do this? Right. And a year to figure out my life also, because at that time where I'm going to live. And I understand as an entrepreneur, we have to live below our mean. So I had to make all the decisions. What am I going to do? So at that time, we took a pause to make a year. And then I had to outreach to different organizations to kind of see who the players are in Brooklyn, who I wanted to connect with, who I wanted to build with. Year, mind you, with no money in my account. So thankfully, I had support from family and my fiance who had been supporting my endeavor or my initiative. But it takes me a year where I had to take a pause. Like, do I really want to be in the city? Is that where I want the next 10 years to be? Is that where I want my impact to be? Is that where I want to add my skills? And I was like, if I have all this knowledge and all this innovation that I want to build, I wanted to go back and bring it to the community that I've been serving, that I've been living in for a while.
A year. So what were you doing in the city?
I was working in a hotel. As you know, working in Times Square for us who live in New York is like crazy, but for a lot of tourists, it's excitement. I was like, I just didn't want to be in the city. Coming from Times Square, going all the time, coming to Brooklyn, imagine the train, the ride, the crowd. I was just getting tired of it. And I was like, also at that time, I was very involved in a lot of networking events I used to attend. Is a lot of tech, a lot of CV, which I wasn't there yet, but I was just curious. I was like, all these resources, all these things are happening everywhere else, but we don't know about it. And I was like, how can I change that? How can I make that different for the community that I lived in? And that's how the whole got started. So it takes me a year to pause, to recharge. I was going to a little bit of depression because, when you stop working, like, what am I gonna do? Did I make a mistake? You start kind of doubting yourself a little bit. But then again, you take a seat back and realize, if I'm gonna live for the rest of my life and I want to be happy, what would that be? So I started thinking about that. It may be less money, but then I'm happy. So these are the kind of conversations that I was having with myself. I'm happy because a lot of time we find ourselves as an entrepreneur and founder. Yes, you could make a lot of money. Ellen, I'll be honest with you, the impact, a way you could help so many people, it does something to your soul. My soul is very satisfied right now. So I'm happy that I take that chance to step back and pause, and it's like, where do I want to be, who I want to be in business with, and what I want to be the next tens in the next century to look like.
The next century.
Because we're
That's
building, yeah, because we're building things right now that's gonna be like, if you're looking at brands that have been making an impact, it takes them 100 years. So for me, I'm just getting started.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say, what is the next century going to look like? But I appreciate where you're coming from because you're right. It's one thing to be an entrepreneur and put a brand out there, but if it's not going to live past you, then the impact ends when you're no longer either at the organization or on the planet, I guess.
Yeah, especially when you know what we need, right? So for me, it was like, oh my God, I always like, I wish I had this. I wish I had a mentor. I wish I had a place like an incubator in my neighborhood. I was all the time, I wish. But think about it, if it was those that have come before me, or the opportunity they had laid down, or the work they have done, that probably put me in the position where I am now. I want to give that back to the next generation that comes after me, and who hopefully to make it easier for them to be able to live and do what they love to do as an entrepreneur, or able to live and work in the neighborhood that they have been serving.
I really like that approach and appreciate it. And so when you started your pause, basically took a leap of faith.
100%. With no money, with no guidance, with no mentorship, with nowhere to go, because I was like, oh my God, it's only recently been building what I'm doing right now. I'm learning about incubator, accelerator. I didn't know where to go. And then again, but also that was the reason for me to keep pushing forward. I was like, if I don't know where to go, if this doesn't exist here, I could be the first one to build this. Because what I tend to find, Alan, you have different neighborhood, different industry. It's like two different worlds. One world may not know what the other one's happening, and the other one is not even aware like this one have a need. So, and then a lot of the business at that time, there was very much tech, bro kind of culture, not a lot of women diversity in these places. So I feel like I was out of place a lot of the time. And I was like, but they cannot be. It have to be a group like us. It have to be different places where people build community, where it have to be a win-win, especially when the industry that I enter in real estate. Real estate is very much like bottom line, make money, pay me. It had to be a different model. And I was like, I know I could build it. I know it exists within all of us want to make changes. All of us want to make impact. A lot of us don't know where to go. But I do believe, whether it's from an investor point of view, whether consumer point of view, whether it's as a founder, all of us deep down want to make a changes. We just don't know where to start. So my whole goal is like, well, let me be the platform for those that want to create an impact, for those that want to support, for those that want to help with outreach. That's the platform.
I love that. We all want to make a change. And that's true. Founders and business owners and CEOs, when you have that role, you tend to have drive and vision and mission, right? The
Yeah.
mission is to make some sort of change. And you definitely need the resources to do that. And I totally, what resonated was your time in tech. I've been in tech for 30 years.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, so I definitely understand the diversity and definitely a male dominated for many years. I think in the past few years it's changed, but certainly when I started, I was meeting a lot of men in tech, and now I'm thrilled to be meeting more women in tech as well. And I also liked what you said that one community may have a lot of knowledge, another community may not even realize that those resources are available and making those connections. So you're talking 8 years ago. How did you manage through COVID? And I also am curious how you're leveraging technology, specifically the internet, if you are to deliver resources or at least make them available from a learning standpoint.
Sure. I mean, COVID, just like everyone else, it was very dark. What I mean is, like, I didn't know how to navigate it. We didn't know what it was. It was more like a shocking, like, what is this? And then from us who have built a share space, that means share everything. That means COVID is like, don't share, social distancing. So everything have to be reversed. We take off for a month trying to figure out everything out. A lot of the member that we know had moved out because we didn't know what it was. So it was very unknown. So for me, it was like how I was navigating unknown. It was like, well, let's pivot online. So a lot of the conferences we was doing webinar, Zoom. We was like very much doing a lot of Zoom. So it was very effective because remember at the end of the day, we are businesses. We still have to move on. We still have to go on with our businesses, but we just kind of move everything online. In our space right now, we have Gen Z all the way to, you know, so technology, social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, that's how they consume a lot of our information right now. And of course, newsletter, but social media, creating short form content, creating information. And then also, we seeing things are being different. People lack authenticity. So they want to see who you are. They want to see you going. So we were sharing a lot of the challenges. Like, yeah, today we closed. Well, today I don't know what I'm doing. I was putting information where I could get more COVID masks. So I was sharing a lot of time. And when you have a community, one of the things the community did that was amazing. So those that weren't able to pay, were struggling, and then some of them that were able to pay, they say, I have the money, I'm gonna pay to make sure the space is sustained. A lot of business doesn't understand community is big. So for me, who have a Caribbean background, we do everything within community. We eat together, we travel together, and then our parents discipline each other's kids. So it's something big. So the community come together. Even sometime I could not even show up. They say, John, you don't need to go to the office, I'm here. I'll do the walkthrough. Let me know what you need. So it was a lot of checking in on each other, which was very important during COVID because a lot of us lost family, a lot of us lost friends. So people was dealing with grief. People was dealing with losses. So it was really hard. But thank God I had a community was checking on each other. It's a very important part of my mission to continue building that because I don't think people understand the value of it, especially when you're growing a company. They lost that flair because like, oh, I'm making money, but it's a big part because you might have people who might be struggling with different things. It might be able to help you, might be able to help them and make a huge impact in your company mission.
I totally agree. Everything you just said, the importance of community, obviously, because that was where you started eight years ago. The way in which the community was able to support each other. There is an element of that that may be missing in some businesses today. I think there's tremendous value in it. I recently moved from New York to Texas, so I've had to find a new community. And I have to say, everyone in Texas has been absolutely lovely and generous and friendly. It feels like it's
You're not
growing a little
alone.
faster
Yeah.
than it did when I was in New York. And so I'm not sure if it's just because having been in business 30 years, I'm better at speaking with people, or Texas is just more friendly than New York. Not that I want to make any New York enemies, but I definitely will make some Texas friends. But it's important as myself as a CEO and solo entrepreneur. Community is the only way I'm going to continue to grow the business. And so I truly understand what you're saying, and I love the fact that that was what your pause was all about. Was I need to learn, but I also need to pull a community together to help them learn as well. So I have one last question for you, Joanne. What advice do you have for C-suite and business leaders as to identifying when they may need to press pause?
Sure. So I think a lot of us, when we're in certain position like this, leadership position, we always feel like we have to continue. Otherwise, we're going to miss out. Otherwise, we're going to feel like we're going to miss a point in opportunity. But to be honest, once you start building, there's never opportunity missed. And I think you might find a lot more people and organization who respect that. The work that you had laid down, the work that we have doing is still there. It's not going to go anywhere. So if I've been doing, building, impacting, it's not going to change. Especially right now, we live in an age of mental health is a huge issue for a lot of us because we're going 100 miles an hour, work-life balance, which we're still trying to figure out what that looks like. My advice is like, if you have to take a pause to reset is important and to re-strategize or to reconnect. You may be doing business with somebody you may not want to do business with anymore, and that take a time off to resizing everything in your life and your business. No time lost, because at that time you might come back stronger and better and more clarity. So there's no time lost as long that you're working on yourself, and as long like you could be able to put a vision, because you could be working, you don't have a plan of where you're going. But if you take a time to pause, you can't serve anybody in an empty shelf.
So are you saying take periodic pauses, or is there something that would prompt a pause?
It's depending on your situation. Everybody life is different. Everybody financial is different. I would definitely advise periodic pauses if you can. And if you can take a longer pause, you should definitely do that. And you could always come back to it. There's nothing lost. If you could take longer pauses, you can. If not, shorter pauses is also welcome too. You should do that. It's very important because your mind is stronger. You feel better, more clarity, more empowered, more energy.
Yeah, more energy. I also like that you said you're not going to lose anything, that fear of missing out, right? Oh, I'm not going to get that opportunity. But if the ball's rolling, then things will continue to happen, even if you're at a point where you need to step back and reevaluate. You shouldn't have to fear that you're going to miss something because it'll be there when you get back. Words of wisdom, Joanne. And I so appreciate that you came on Time to Press Pause and shared everything that you had to offer in your Press Pause story, and how wonderful you articulated about the community. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to, continue learning more about you and Texas. I haven't been to Texas, but when I go next time, I'll make sure that I'll say, hey, I'm here.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Time to Press Pause. If you're interested in learning more about Joanne, visit brooklyncommons.com. That's BKLYNCOMMONS.com. If you're interested in learning more about me, visit thesalientstrategist.com. And please listen again wherever you listen to your podcasts.